Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Stefan Weir, who's joining us on the podium today. He's the Acting Director of Emergency Management at NEMA. A week ago, we were asking New Zealanders to brace for Cyclone Gabrielle. 7 days later, the cyclone has passed through, and the true extent of the devastation and loss become clearer with every passing day. 28,000 homes remain without power. Telecommunications have been severely disrupted. Fresh water is in short supply in some areas, and roads have been badly damaged, limiting access to some areas and causing significant delays in others. Supply chains have been disrupted, and moving goods around has been incredibly challenging. Crops have been badly damaged, many completely destroyed. Lives have been turned upside down. Many people have seen their homes and all of their possessions completely destroyed. Countless others have been displaced. Tragically, so far, 11 people have lost their lives and more fatalities remain possible. 6,431 people have been reported to police as unaccounted for. We know that 3,216 are okay, and police are working hard to reconcile the others. Emergency services and first responders have done us all proud. Many have worked themselves to the point of utter exhaustion. The stress and the strain of the past week is clearly starting to show, and particularly in areas where power and communications remains disrupted. We know that tensions can be high. None of us should underestimate the psychological toll this disaster is taking on some of our fellow Kiwis. The past week has pushed many to their limit, even more so given it comes on top of other recent weather events, the disruption of a global pandemic, and too many other significant and disruptive challenges to mention. Our resilience is being tested like never before. But as we've repeatedly seen in recent times, adversity brings out the best in Kiwis. We rally together and we support each other. We look out for our neighbours. We go the extra mile to protect the vulnerable. We share and we care. Civil defence teams have been receiving reports of an increase in donated goods to help the groups that are experiencing the aftermath of Cyclone Gabrielle. The kindness shown by Kiwis is amazing. However, making monetary donations, big or small, are the single most helpful thing people can do in the wake of the cyclone to support those disrupted communities, because that enables the support organisations to require what is most needed in those communities. There are a number of relief funds that have already been set up to manage donations and to ensure that they're getting supplies to where they're needed. Those include those set up by media organisations, the mayoral relief funds, and in the particular area in the specific regions. We're surging extra support from around New Zealand into the regions that need them, and when additional help is required, we're accepting it from overseas. The Australian emergency responders announced on Friday are supporting Fire and Emergency New Zealand with a 27-person impact assessment team. 25 of them are already on the ground in the Hawke's Bay, and 2 are supporting the National Coordination Centre. Their main focus will be on helping to contact those who are not yet accounted for. Today we've accepted an offer of support from Fiji. 10 personnel from their Defence Force, 4 Fire Authority and 4 National Disaster Management Office officials are preparing to leave for New Zealand in the coming days. The United States and Australia, through the New Zealand Defence Force, Defence Force with a C-130 transport aircraft, airload teams to rig freight on the aircraft, and environmental health staff to assist in analysing health risks. All of this will be a great help, and we thank Fiji and the United States as we thank Australia. We've received a dozen or so offers of international assistance in total. With so many New Zealand communities still coming to grips with the path ahead, and these offers of international assistance coming into New Zealand, I don't believe that now is the time for me as Prime Minister to be heading in another direction. I was due to travel to Fiji for the Pacific Islands Forum this Thursday and to come back on Friday, but I've asked the Deputy Prime Minister, Carmel Sepuloni, to go instead, and she will travel in my place. The new arrangements are being finalised. Our relationship with the Pacific is incredibly important, and I'll be looking for opportunities to connect with Pacific Island leaders as soon as possible. There is no doubt that as a country we have a steep mountain ahead of us, and we will climb that together. Our attention over the past week has been focused on the initial emergency response, rescuing those stranded, restoring lifelines and removing hazards. In some areas that still remains very much the focus. In other areas, though, recovery is starting to get underway. As the extent of the damage and the need becomes clearer, we'll be able to shape our response accordingly. We know that this recovery is going to come with a big price tag, and we will have to once again reprioritise and refocus our efforts and our resources. We will build back better, but we will also need to build back more resilient than before. For far too long as a country, we've underinvested in infrastructure and resilience, and that has to change. Tomorrow, Cabinet will consider some further early measures to support the response and recovery. This is going to be an ongoing process. We will get through this. As a government, we will do what it takes to recover and to rebuild. The usual systems and processes of government are going to need to change and adapt to the extraordinary circumstances that we find ourselves in. If we're going to build back better, and if we're going to build back quickly, some tough calls will need to be made, and I'm absolutely committed to doing that. To quickly recap on the latest, there are currently no weather warnings or watches in place for New Zealand. Road access remains restricted, but is progressively opening up. The rail line has been badly damaged and will take some time to repair. Fuel supply is being replenished, but some spend limits remain in place to ensure that everyone can get what they need. After almost a week without power in some areas, stress levels are high, and the police are working to maintain law and order. I know how hard this is, but I ask everyone to remain calm. Everyone is working as hard as they can to get things back online. Drinking water in Hastings and Napier is safe. Welfare in the Hawke's Bay remains a top priority. State Highway 2 between Gisborne and Wairoa is now open 24 hours a day for the public. State Highway 38 is now open for utility vehicles only, and it's expected to reopen in the next few days for the public, allowing transit between Wairoa and the Bay of Plenty. Cell coverage has been restored to Wairoa, and water supply is safely operating, but a boil water notice remains in place. The Army has mobilised 2 25-person emergency response teams to Wairoa and Hastings. In Northland, some communities remain isolated, but contact has been made with most of these. Transit across the region remains an issue, with stop-go operating in places along State Highway 12, 14 and 15. In Gisborne, the main water treatment plant is now operating. However, there are still water use restrictions in place. Water has been supplied by tanker to 2 West Auckland communities, and overnight 81 people were accommodated in the 3 Auckland CDCs. State Highway 35 from Tapuia Springs to Tolaga Bay remains the only section of State Highway 35 to be closed. An alternative route is being worked on, but Tokomaru Bay could remain isolated for up to 5 more days. Matawhai and Waipiro Bay townships remain isolated. State Highway 35, Hikuwai Bridge, has been completely severed, with one side of the bridge snapped and the other hanging down into the river. A temporary replacement is being planned. NEMA have deployed 60 Starlinks into the Hawke's Bay and Tairāwhiti regions, 20 more are ready, and it's expected that there will be at least 100 Starlinks out in communities soon, providing much needed connections to the world. The fibre connection and 4G coverage is up and running for the most part in Gisborne, but telecommunications companies are strongly urging people not to overuse the network at this point. Capacity will be limited and it will take some time to get back to more normal levels of service. Northland, Coromandel and Hawke's Bay are largely back online, with just a small number of sites being worked on. And finally, the HMNZS Canterbury is due to leave Lyttelton tomorrow and is estimated to arrive in Napier on Tuesday. They'll be bringing equipment including 5 Bailey bridges, 20 generators, 50 gas bottles and 120 emergency packs.